Hi guys, Jordan from P&P Campers. I'm just going to be doing a handover video on this Knaus motorhome. It's based on a 2013 Fiat Ducato chassis. The motorhome itself is a 700 model and it's got a fixed island bed in the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you around the outside. I'll show you under the bonnet first, and then I'll work my way all the way around the outside, and then we'll jump inside and I'll show you what we've got going on in there as well. So on this particular age of cab, you will find that pretty much all of your consumable bits and pieces are on the left-hand side. So at the top here, we've got your washer fluid, brake fluid, sorry, not brake fluid here. This is your power steering fluid in this one. Engine coolant. This one's your brake fluid attached to the servo. And then we've got your engine oil filling point down here. The red topped one just in front of that is your engine oil dipstick, so you can check how much oil is in the engine. This little sticker just here, this is a paint code, so it's 691A, and that is the blue colour that you can see here on the cab. It's like a bluey grey. So if you need any touch-up paints, it is Fiat 691 that you'll need for that. You've got two chassis plates here. The original one, the Fiat one, has 3650 written on it. But the uprated Knaus one, the Knaus Tablet sticker here, says 3.5 tons. So this is a normal 3.5 ton. You don't need your extra C1 license in order to drive this vehicle. So that is just this is your uprated sticker. This is the one that you need to go off just here. You've got some air conditioning information just here. This little bit that's been notched out is just telling you that it's that one there that it's actually sort of focused on. So 0.550 grams is how much gas basically you need to go into the aircon system. So you've then got the air filter sits inside this box down here. You've also got over on the right hand side, you've got a positive terminal just here and a negative terminal here, and you'll notice here that it says only for jump start underneath. And so that's because your engine battery sits under the floor inside the cab. So if you were to need, if you needed to jump start the vehicle in a bit of a hurry, you don't want to have to be tearing up the floor to get to the engine battery. So Fiat quite kindly fitted these little terminals under the bonnet so you can quickly, jump start the vehicle. So positive under here and earth just here. So onto the near side at the front, we've got on the passenger side, we've got your bonnet release handle just inside the door here. You've got a couple of electrical bits and pieces and your leisure battery underneath this passenger seat. You don't really need to do anything with any of that, so you don't need to get in there for any reason. But I just thought I'd point out that's where that stuff is. That's for your electrical bits and bobs. The diesel filling point is just inside the little flap here, just behind the passenger door. Bodywork on here is absolutely lovely and straight. I can't see any problems with that whatsoever. All the windows are looking in really nice condition as well. Can't really fault that side of it whatsoever. As you can see, customer has been using this for a little while, so yeah, all in good condition. So this first locker that we get to on the front near side is probably the most important locker we're going to get to. You've got quite a lot of important things that I need to run through on here. So what we've got in here, the first thing you'll notice is this big tank on the left-hand side. So this is our freshwater tank. So when you want to fill the fresh tank up, you undo the cap that you've just watched me put back on, take this all the way off, and then you can physically fill up your fresh tank from there, from that hole. So that'll just obviously, any hose will go into there, watering can, whatever you want. It's a pretty big tank. I think it's somewhere about 100 litres. So yeah, nice big tank. The beauty of this particular style or this layout of tank is that you can also take this cap off here. It needs two hands really, but you can take this cap off and get your hand in there and actually clean the tank out if you want to. So like the majority of the time when it comes to motorhomes, like onboard tanks, they're sort of underslung underneath, so you can't get your hand inside them. So having this type of layout here, having the ability to get your hand in there and clean it out, is really, really helpful. To the right of that, we've got these two drains just here. So this one on the left hand side with a blue symbol here is our freshwater drain off point, and the one to the right of it here is our wastewater drain off. So where they are at the moment, that is both in their closed position, so all the water from inside the fresh and the waste tank are going to stay inside the tank. So all you need to do to drain it out is twist it round to the right, so 90 degrees, and all the water from either one of those tanks, whichever one you open up, will drain out onto the floor. So they're working really nicely, nothing wrong with those, but that is where your fresh and wastewater drain off points are. We've then got your electric hookup point. So I've got the electric hookup plugged in at the moment. You can see I've got it coming through this little flap down here, which goes straight onto the floor, which means that you can actually have the cable running through the bottom of the van and then completely lock this cupboard up. So you can literally have the locker completely locked, completely closed up, whilst the hookup is still plugged in. So that's a really, really nice little feature of that. Behind that, you'll notice a little pulley here. So what this does is you've essentially got this little pipe coming into this locker here. And what that is when you pull that cable there, it will basically start warming up the tanks. It's like a frost saving thing for the fresh and waste tanks. So it does say on that little sticker there, fresh and wastewater tank heating, but that's what that little pulley does. And then the last thing in here is this little thing over here on the right hand side. So this blue unit, or black unit with the blue bits on it, that is your boiler drain off point. So what it does is it's an auto drain off, and it will sense when the temperature gets to a certain, it'll be about 3 or 4 degrees I think normally. It will sense when the temperature gets down that low inside the boiler or around the boiler, and it will drop the water out from inside of the boiler so that you can't forget to do it. The reason that's really important to do is that if you leave the boiler full up of water and it freezes in the winter, then it's going to expand, you're going to get lots of cracking going on, and there's going to be leaks all over the place. So that is why you've got this boiler drain off point. If you find that your boiler drain off is in the open position and it's draining out into the onto the floor, you'll find that this little valve at the top here will be facing long ways rather than sideways. And you'll see that this little blue button here at the bottom will be poking out. So at the moment, this blue button's flush, and this little lever here is facing front to back on the motorhome. That is how you want it to be. If you come into here one day and see that this is facing side to side or widthwise on the motorhome, and this little blue button's pushed out, twist this back to where it is and push the blue button back in. If you don't do that, if you just leave that little blue button pushed out, what will happen is basically when you turn the water pump on, all the water will try and fill the boiler up, and it will go to here and just drain straight out onto the floor. So you need to make sure that you just make sure that you leave this little thing here looking like it is now. Blue button pushed in, valve on the top in the position where it is now. Just whilst I'm here as well, you've got this little vent just here on the outside that says Truma on it. You can see the pipe that runs to that just inside there. That is your boiler valve, or the vent for it. So just be careful on that. You will feel hot air coming out through the bottom of this if you have got it lit up. Right, so the rest of the van, because the majority of the bits and pieces that I would normally show you that are around the vehicle are all in that one locker, the rest of the outside of the van is pretty straightforward. So you've got your gas locker here at the back. You've got the spare bottle in here. This isn't hooked up whatsoever. This is just a spare bottle here. So at the moment, we've got this 6 kilo propane bottle hooked up. Pigtail hose, we've replaced that. So that's 2024 on that one. So you've got till 29 to replace that because you get 5 years. To turn the bottle on, we go anti-clockwise around to the left, all the way up. And if you do it all the way up, it means that when you come back to the bottle to turn it off, you can't go wrong because you can't go the wrong way. So go all the way up when you want to turn it on, and then all the way down when you want to turn it off. And that's clockwise to turn it off. So that's just a little tip there. If you just turn it all the way on when you're turning it on, as I say, when you come back to it, then you can't go wrong about turning it off. Also on the regulator here, you'll notice you've got a little button on the front of it here. The button itself, you have got a little diagram at the back telling you what that is, But basically the button is what you call a crash sensor. So if the vehicle or if the regulator thinks that you've been in a crash, it should isolate the gas from going into the vehicle. Now I will say straight away that I always recommend that you turn the gas bottle off before you start driving anyway, so you shouldn't really have to rely on this crash sensor here. For obvious reasons, the last thing you want is a pressurized 6 kilogram gas propane bottle switched on in the event of a crash. So I always recommend to turn that off before you start driving anyway. But as I say, if you don't turn that off, you do have the SecuMotion crash sensor there anyway. But there you go. Just thought I'd explain to you what that was. Really, really important to make sure that you don't fill this locker up with stuff. To comply with all the regulations and pass a habitation check, these little vents here, the dropout holes, need to be completely clear of anything. If you have a gas leak from any of these bottles or anything inside this locker, gas is heavier than air. So what will happen is if you cover these vents up, the gas won't have anywhere to go, and it'll eventually work its way inside the vehicle, or at least it'll just fill this locker up, which you don't really want. So make sure that you don't put anything in here, spanners and stuff like that. That's absolutely fine, but you don't want anything else inside this locker apart from gas related stuff. That's really important. Not just for the habitation side of things, but if you do have any problems with anything in the future, you're going to want to know that that's all empty. On the back of the van, you've got a reversing camera at the top just here and a 2-bike rack. You do also have the huge, great big garage in here. Obviously, customers got all of their stuff in it at the moment, but that's a really nice big garage running all the way through just there. Full-size Fiamma wind-out awning running across the whole length of the van. We've then got the toilet cassette locker. So this is a Dometic toilet cassette. So basically, it's as easy as this. If you want to take the cassette out, you lift up on this little green tab and pull the cassette towards you. Once you've got it to this position here, you'll then be able to take the cassette all the way out, and that's how you would then take it away to empty it. When you're emptying it out from here, you need to make sure that you're holding down this little button here at the back. The button at the back is just a pressure release valve, and I promise it will make things a lot easier. Once you've emptied this out, the cap full of the blue fluid goes back inside here. Give it a little swoosh around and then push this all the way back till it won't go back any further, and you're back in position. You've got a freshwater flush on here, so you don't have any separate flush fluid to worry about topping up. So you do need to have a little bit of water in your fresh tank in order to flush the toilet, so just bear that in mind. That is that. So on the actual habitation door itself, you've got this handle here which will lock the door from inside and then obviously push down to unlock it. You've got the original factory fitted bin there on the inside of the door. You have got a door retainer down here. Now I will say, completely transparent with you, these little door locks aren't the strongest things in the world. Sorry about that. Yeah, they're not the strongest things in the world. They do work, but you will find that with a decent gust of wind, the door will shut again. So just bear that in mind. You can replace them for different versions, but I will say that you will be left with a little bit of a mark where the original one was. But might be something to consider in the future if you find that that's an issue that you have. So what I'll do is I'll run you through the cab now, and then I'll spin around and show you into the back. So in the cab itself, as I say, based on the Fiat Ducato chassis, you've got a really nice high spec in here. So you've got a few, additional extras that, maybe you wouldn't have thought about from factory. These Fiat Ducatos are extremely basic normally. So, having all these extra bits and pieces that I'll show you are really nice things to have. Probably the most expensive extra that you've got on here is actually these blinds across the windows. So you've got all of the factory fitted Remis blinds across here. So you can pull these across and they will meet up over here. So you've got those factory fitted blinds there. Really, really nice thing to have. A lot of the motorhomes do have them, but I will say that if you did want them fitted, you know, if you didn't have them, a good few grand to have them done. So it's a nice thing to have. The ones in the middle are for the center windscreen. They need to meet together in order to close because they've got a magnetic strip on each side. So you need to meet them in the middle. But yeah. Other than that, you've got the electric windows, electric adjusting mirrors. You've got the cruise control function just there on the bottom stalk, which you can literally just turn on and off from there. You can adjust the speed like that, and you can resume from the last time by pressing the side button. You've got your indicators and lights on the left-hand side, and obviously your flash there as well. Washers and wipers are all on the right-hand side. You've got the 6-speed manual gearbox, so having that 6th gear on the motorway is a bit of a godsend. Reverse is lift up on the little bit at the back there, over and up to the top left-hand side. You've got a single DIN Pioneer head unit just there, with a nice little bit underneath there. You can, if you want to, you can have a double DIN sized unit fitted in there. Not everybody likes those. I personally prefer just a normal single DIN stereo, but it's all personal preference. You've got the air conditioning from this little switch just here, which again is another thing that is not standard, so that would have been an optional extra along with the cruise control. You've got a switch just here which will isolate the radio, I believe, so if you wanted to isolate the radio from there, you can do. All of your standard heating controls are from these two here. Obviously that's pretty straightforward stuff. Down below here, you've got ASR. That is to do with your traction control. So that's another optional extra that you don't always have. You can lock and unlock the cab from these two buttons just here. You've got your hazard warning lights, fog lamp, and the button on the left-hand side here, the heated rear window switch. As you can probably tell, won't be doing anything at all because the original heated rear window has been removed because we've got a motorhome on the back now. So this little switch here won't do anything whatsoever. You have got the park safe reversing camera that comes up on that screen there. And I think that is about it really for the cab. There's not much else, I don't think. Both of the front seats swivel round, so you've got these little handles here in order to allow you to swivel the front seats around. Just been doing a little bit of work in here, so sorry if there's a few bits and pieces around the place. So what I'm going to do is show you through above the door just here first. I'm just going to shut this door too so that people can walk past. So above the actual habitation door, we've got this Knaus branded control panel. We'll just address the elephant in the room, this little screen on the left-hand side here. This is, previous owner has obviously perhaps gone a little bit overboard on the security, but actually, you know, it's not a bad thing at all. But if you turn this little switch on, sorry, that's for the light. If you turn this switch on here, you can see there a view of the outside of the van just here in front of us. So you can actually see outside the van right here. There's a little camera on the outside of the van just there. But just in case you ever wondered what that was, that is where that camera comes through to. This switch just here is for the awning light, so you can turn that on and off from there. The two above that, you can ignore those because they are just thermostats. These aren't buttons, these are just thermostats for the heating. So the control panel itself is really, really simple to use. You've essentially got a main power switch in the middle just here, which will turn everything on and off. Turn that back on, press and hold, and it will spring to life. You've then got, once you've turned it on, you've got these three lights around the power switch. So you've got 12 volt. So that's essentially anything 12 volt that you might want to use. So that's going to be 12 volt sockets, just general bits and pieces that you might, I always recommend if you're going to come into the van, just turn the power switch on, turn your 12 volt switch on, and turn your lights. So these two here, turn both of those on. Once you've done that, you should then have power going to pretty much everything inside the vehicle. Everything 12 volt, that is. The last switch there is the water pump. And once you've turned that water pump switch on there, you should then, as long as you've got water in the fresh tank, which I'll show you how to check in a minute, you should then be able to draw the water through any of the taps. You've got a submersible pump in this vehicle, which means that the pump itself sits inside the tank. So the only reason I mention that is because a submersible pump works on 12-volt power, so it doesn't work on pressure. So basically, the pump itself will not do anything at all. It will not turn itself on and off until you tell it to by drawing the water through this tap. So the actual taps themselves, every single tap in the van has got a little micro switch inside here and tells the pump when to turn on and off, whereas other vans with like an inline pump work on pressure and won't turn themselves off until they get to pressure. So the big plus side to having a submersible pump like this is that, generally speaking, you won't get so many leaks because there's not so much high pressure around the vehicle. So sort of point of that story there being that you can leave the pump switch turned on if you want to, because it won't do anything until you draw the tap anyway. So come in and basically I would just turn all three of these on, and then you can go ahead and use the rest of the vehicle however you want to. So on the main screen itself, you've got a little symbol up here. This symbol here means that your electric hookup is plugged in. So I showed you on the outside, we've got the hookup plugged in now. So that's just telling you that there is power coming into the van and that the battery charger is working. So once you've seen that little switch there, that little light there, sorry, you can tell that your hookup is definitely working. Other than that, you've got the time, you've got the leisure battery voltage, and I know it's leisure battery because it's got a little caravan symbol on it. Sorry, I didn't mean to press that button. You got a little caravan symbol there, so that's going to be telling us the leisure battery's voltage. If I press it again, it's showing us the vehicle battery voltage. Just there, you got a picture of a cab, and then you can just see the voltage in both of those batteries. So 13.7 and 13. So both of those voltages are actually really, really nice and high. So the reason for that is having the electric hookup plugged in, so that, you know, both of your batteries are being charged up now. As soon as that as soon as that hookup is plugged in, and you can see that symbol up there, both your batteries are going to go straight up, you know, really high voltage. So that's perfect. So that's that middle button just there to see your battery voltages, leisure, and then vehicle. You've then got this switch on the right, which will tell you your freshwater level, so that's 40%, and your wastewater level at 70%. So first one is fresh, second one is waste. So then, you know, you can keep your eye on those, get those levels there, and when you see that your water level is getting a little bit high, so let's just say your wastewater is getting a bit high, which, to be honest, it is a little bit, you would then go around to the outside and drain out the wastewater from that valve that I showed you outside, the grey one. The last one here, on the little Celsius symbol on it, is a internal temperature and an external temperature. So you can see there, I haven't even had the heating on, but we've got a 17.5 degrees inside and a 14 degrees outside. So that's how well insulated these motorhomes are. So that's the control panel. So basically, the long and short of it is that you've got your gauges down here. So you've got your temperature, battery levels, water levels. And then all over on the right-hand side is basically your isolators for things. So you've got your water pump, lights, 12-volt power, and main power switch. Once you've turned those three on, you will then have access to using absolutely all of your lights around the vehicle, so they will all come to life. You've got various switches all the way around the motorhome for all the different lights. This being a Knaus, you have got a really, really good amount of lights. So you've got these switches down here. One does the big light in the back there. These two here, which do these nice lights in the front. So it's really nice, bright LEDs throughout. So the layout in here is that you've got the single seat here, two forward-facing seats which do have seat belts behind this little unit here. Big table. This does extend as well. This spins around and extends. Both front seats are swivel seats, so you would normally have these swiveled all the way around to make a really nice big lounge in here. So, speaking of the fresh and waste water, so it's really important. There's one thing that's sort of more important than anything else in the majority of motorhomes, is that you make sure that the boiler is full of water when you want to use it. Also, as I mentioned on the outside, making sure that it's drained out before winter is also really important, because that will stop you from getting big leaks. But if you want to make sure that your boiler's full of water, there's a little step that you need to do. So make sure that you've got some water in your fresh tank. So yes, we've got 40% of fresh water. Make sure your water pump is turned on. And then come over to the sink here and just draw the water through on both hot and cold. So before I do that, what I'm looking for when I do this, what I'm looking for is that the water comes through nice and clearly with no coughing and spluttering and going all over the side. So if we just see what that does. Coming through really nicely on the cold, over to the hot. Absolutely perfect. So what you've just seen there is the water coming through the tap absolutely perfectly. That is exactly what you want to see. If you found that it was sort of coughing and spluttering and not really coming through very well, all it means is that there's not quite enough water in the boiler. So that can be for a few reasons. It could be that your boiler drain is open. So you would go around and double check that that little blue button at the bottom is pushed in. It could be that you've not got enough water in your fresh tank, or it could be that your water pump isn't turned on. The other reason that you could do that is that if your boiler isn't quite 100% full and you've got a little bit of air in there, all you need to do is just leave that tap turned on and wait for it to start coming through like you've just seen it there. At the moment though, absolutely full, you know, the boiler's full completely to the top, and so there's no air in the system coming out through the tap. So that's perfect. Now that we've done that, I can then go ahead and use the boiler however I want to use it, and get the water hot, basically. So this little unit down here, this is our Truma iNet Ready system. So this is your boiler, this is your heating and your hot water. So press the main button here in the middle, and essentially we can go through and select what we want the boiler to do. So whichever one is flashing, which you can see there is a top left one at the moment, is the one that you're hovering over. So I can go through and I can hover over whichever one of those that I want. So, first one, which is a little caravan with a temperature symbol inside it. I'm going to press on that one, and it's coming up saying off. So what will happen is when I turn this up, it will start from 5 and it will go all the way up to 30. So, this is our heating. So you select what temperature we want it to get to, press it again, and now the heating's going to come on. The next one over, this little water symbol with a temperature gauge in it. Press on that one. It's now saying off. It'll give us 3 options. So we've got eco, hot, or boost. And that is our hot water. So I can select hot. The next one over is our energy selector. So if you click on that one, it's currently using gas to do whatever we've told it to do over here. So we can choose gas. We can choose mix 1 or mix 2, which is a mixture of gas and electric hookup. Or we can choose electric 1 or electric 2, which is electric on its own. Now, I'm going to leave that on gas for now because I've got the gas turned on. Yes, I do have the electric hookup plugged in, but in all honesty, these Truma heaters are, if you don't use them on gas very often and you only ever use them on the mains, they do get a little bit clogged up and a little bit tired. So you need to make sure that you use them on gas every now and again at least. Otherwise you will run into the problems where you might need servicing and stuff like that. Just like a car really. If you if you didn't take a car for a decent long journey every now and again, it would get clogged up. It's exactly the same. So that is the long and short of it really. You've got your heating, you've got your hot water, energy selector, and then the last one here, the fan symbol, is your fan speed. So you've got eco or high. So now, basically, if I press the back button here, you'll see that we've got a few things up on the top. So we've got these two here that are flashing. So you've got the heating symbol flashing and you've got the hot water symbol flashing. So that means that both of those are currently on and working. The next one over is a gas bottle symbol. That's telling us that the boiler is using the gas to work. And then the next one over is our fan speed, which is on eco. So now we've got warm air coming through these little vents just here. So any of these little black things are little heating vents. You have got one in the bathroom as well. So if I show you that, it's down on the floor. So that is one of your heating vents just down there on the bathroom floor. And you've got those absolutely everywhere in the motorhome. They're all over the place. So they will really evenly heat the van up. So just for example, just to sort of give you a scenario. So let's just say we're on a campsite. We've got no gas. We are hooked up on the mains and we only want to put the heating on, just for example. So no gas, we have got mains and we just want the heating to come on. So I would come to the control panel here, turn it on, and I would select that yes, I want the heating to come on. So I select the temperature for that. I would go to the hot water, turn that off, and I would then choose the energy there as electric 1 or electric 2. So I'll just go electric 2. So now our hot water symbol's stopped flashing because that's turned off, but our heating one there is still flashing. We've also got these two little symbols over here, which mean that you're on electric 2, and that's it. That's just doing its thing. So it's telling us now we've got the heating on at 22 degrees on electric. So it is very, very straightforward. When you get the hang of that, you know, making sure that you've got it on the correct energy and that you've got the, you know, the symbols flashing if you want them to be doing something, it's pretty easy. Turn the heating one all the way back down to where it says off if you want to turn the entire thing off. And then any time that you've got nothing here above this black line, if there's nothing along this top, the boiler is off. And that is honestly it. That's all there is to it. So we've got a microwave at the top just here. This has been given to us by the customer to fit in this gap. It was one that they preferred to use rather than the one that was in it already. We've got a 3-way Dometic fridge. So this is it's called a 3-way fridge because it works on 3 different energies. So you've got, at the top, we've got electric hookup. We've then got 12 volt, which is the battery symbol. And we've got gas, which is the one at the bottom, which we've got selected at the moment. If I turn this off, I press and hold here. All the lights go out, including the one inside the fridge. That means that the fridge is completely switched off. Turn it back on again, and it should select the energy that we had on last, which it has done. So the idea behind these 3-way fridges is that you can either get the fridge cold first on gas or mains electric, the one at the top. They are the only 2 ways that will get this fridge cold from warm. Okay, so if you're looking to cool this fridge down from warm, it's either the gas or the mains. Once you've pre-cooled it and you want to leave to go somewhere, you can switch over to 12 volt. Okay, now you can see it's flashing now. It's got a red flashing light, and what that means is that the engine isn't running and it hasn't got any power to work. So the engine needs to be running in order to use this fridge on 12 volt. The top one, the 240 volt will work because we've got the electric hookup plugged in. So now the 240 volt element, like a household fridge, has now taken over and it's cooling the fridge down. So whether you're using the mains or the gas, the fridge will take a good couple of hours to actually get completely cold. So just for example, if you're going to go away on holiday tomorrow morning, I would recommend that you light the fridge up on gas or use it on the mains the night before you leave, or at least a good few hours before you leave, and then just literally switch over to 12 volt just before you start driving and switch back to one of the other 2 when you get to wherever you're going. So pre-cool on gas or mains, 12 volt for driving, gas or mains when you get to where you're going. I'll switch that off again now. And that is that. That's the fridge. So I've shown you those bits over there. As I say, I've got the bits and pieces on the bed there. Don't worry about that. So the cooker over here. You will need an ignition, like a long reach lighter of some sort, to light these up. They don't come with ignition on them, unfortunately. So you will need a long reach lighter of some sort to to light any three of these up. You've got really massive cupboards down low here as well, loads of storage in there. You have actually got as well this, actually no, completely ignore that because that's a completely different system. Forget about this altogether. Right, so down here we have got your gas isolators. So you can see there they have been nicely labelled on the right hand side to tell you what they all do. Obviously I deal with these all the time, so they have got a little symbol on them which does show you what they are anyway. But if you wanted to isolate the gas from any one of those specific appliances, so just say for example you thought the cooker was leaking some gas, you can then come to here and isolate it by turning it 90 degrees. So now this one at the top just here, which you can see there is the cooker, is completely isolated of its gas. Now I will say, you do not, the amount of times that I've seen it is unbelievable. You do not have to turn any of these off for any reason at all other than you think there's a problem with it. You do not have to turn that off every time you get out of the vehicle. Turning the gas off from inside the locker is plenty to isolate the gas because that isolates it from the source. So if you want to turn everything off, just turn the bottle off in the locker. And to be completely honest, these little things down here are more so for our testing purposes. You know, if we think there's a leak inside the vehicle, we can isolate them one at a time and work out where it's coming from. So that's mainly what it's for. But yeah. So, got the cooker, that's done there. So I think the last thing I need to show you through is going to be the bathroom. So you'll notice that when you open up the toilet door here, the door itself actually comes completely over and you can close it up here so you can separate the back end of the van from the front. You have got this nice separate shower here, so a proper little shower. I very rarely show you them actually turning on because it's literally just pull for hot and cold, just like any other shower. Nothing to it whatsoever. Bathroom is much the same. The only bit that I normally show you is the toilet working, so you can see how that works. The switch for the lights in the bathroom is just here, and again you've literally got a hot and cold tap for the sink. So the toilet itself, you've got a couple of things on this little switch unit here. You've got, it will tell you when the cassette's full and needs emptying. It will also light up red up here if the cassette isn't all the way pushed in. So if you find that that if you come in here and that little red light is on there, it means that you need to go back outside and readjust that cassette because it's not all the way pushed in. So when you want to flush the toilet, it's really important that you have the pump switch turned on the control panel. But basically, press this little button in the middle and your flush fluid will come round into the actual cassette. You can then pull this handle here, which will release any water and then let it go into the cassette itself, and then push it back in. And that is how you use it. It really is as easy as that. So, I'll turn off when I turn the main lights off. As I said, you've got the island bed in here. Really nice layout. So I think I've covered everything. I don't think there's anything else that I can run through, but if you think there's anything else that you want me to explain or anything else you want me to go through, just give us a shout. But otherwise, I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.